kind of had a little puzzler coming in right along the ice.
Ram has certainly had to be somewhat sharp here in the latter stages of the opening period, or it would be more than a 2-0 score. The Huskies this evening not off to the kind of start they wanted to be in this building. I know a lot of the Michigan Tech fans felt last night, Dave, that a couple different bounces of the puck and they would have had a different outcome up at the Student Development Center. Loose puck out front of the goal, cleared away by Michigan Tech's Seal, back out in the center ice. That's an icing call on the Huskies, face off back into the MTU zone.
Both the Wildcat and Husky football fans not getting good news today. Northern Michigan's football team finishes a 1-9 season with a 22-0 loss at Ashland, Ohio, and Michigan Tech's.
I was going to say, Dave, we're used to that, though, by now.
And Michigan Tech's football squad losing by 1 point in the Metrodome in Minneapolis. They end up on the other side of things, though, at 9-1. Good job for Bernie Anderson. Congratulations on a great Tech football season.
And I'm sure Mark Marana is going to be heading back to the drawing board like Monday in his continued quest to turn the Wildcat program back to what it was. Loose puck along the near side boards. Haddon avoids a hit. Loose puck, though, taken. Cleared back in behind the goal by Stevens. This is Mickish. Mickish off to the outstanding start for Michigan Tech. Loose puck in behind the cage. A centering attempt by Stevens right through the crease area. And the Wildcats bring it back the other way. Haddon, centering attempt for Jason Hare. Held in at the blue line by Simpson. He's going to wind it up, and that went high over top of the Tech goal. Picked up and cleared by the Huskies. That'll be another icing call on MTU.
Well, going back to Northern Michigan football, the last time they had a season that bad, they turned it around the next year and went undefeated. Back in the middle 70s, bringing the championship to Marquette, as the Wildcat hockey team did just 2 seasons ago.
Now, refresh my memory. Did the 74 team win a game, or did they tie a game?
I think they were
I think they tied a game. I'll have to look on that. But the 75 year, I remember it well, as Northern football certainly came back to the prominence that it was in the late 50s and 60s.
Were you a student at that time?
Not in the late 50s or 60s, but in the mid 70s.
I meant the 70s.
You were a gleam in your parents' eye about that time.
In the middle 70s, yeah.
Loose puck in neutral ice to John Young. Young's nice little pass up to Figliomini. And that's picked off by Simpson and cleared right back out into center ice. 2.5 left in the opening period. Northern with the 2-0 lead. Both goals in the first 3 minutes of the hockey game. Ripplinger turns. Gets it up for Troy Johnson. Dumps it forward, picked up by Ripplinger in center ice. 2-on-2 with Cable. Centering attempt, and Cable all kinds of tied up across the way by the Michigan Tech defender. That's Kirby Perot. The loose puck came right back over the cage. Delayed penalty now on Northern Michigan as Ram comes out for the extra skater, and Sardiff will hustle out of his goal to pick up that loose puck. And Michigan Tech will be going back on the power play with 1:56 left in period number 1.
18:04, the time of the call. It will be the third power play for the Huskies as Brent Ripplinger heads to the penalty box. High sticking is the charge. Brent Ripplinger, 4 goals, 2 assists on the season, including a goal tonight. Sophomore from Williams Lake, British Columbia, hometown of fellow Wildcat Steve Carpenter.
In the hockey game last night between Northern and Tech, I know Ripplinger was just high in the rafters as he had an excellent opportunity in that hockey game and couldn't believe that he missed the net. Face off to the right side of Corwin Sardiff. Huskies on the power play. Stevens, Peterson, and Mickish up front. The point men this time, John Young, who picks up the puck right now, along with Don Osborne, who has it along the far side boards. To Peterson. Knocked away from him nicely by McGilvery, and he'll clear it back and up over the glass, actually, into the crowd, and we'll have the face-off in neutral ice.
Michigan Tech started off playing a little ragged early on in the period. That led to a couple of the Wildcat goals, and certainly they've tightened it up a bit as the period has gone on and gotten a bit more organization and a bit more of a consistent effort in their own end of the ice.
Well, that was one of the keys to Northern Michigan's victory last night after getting off to the terrible start at Wisconsin and the terrible start out in Alaska. That after Tech scored that first goal last night to make it 1-0, they managed to keep themselves in the hockey game until they could get the goal back, and that was a big step for Northern Michigan last night. Stevens and Carpenter battling for it. Carpenter wins that, clears it out into center ice. McGilvery tries to muscle his way through. Clears it deeper into the Tech zone, and Mickish turns. For Osborne in center ice. Osborne winds it up from long distance off the leg of Dave Hiddle. Under a minute to go. Elbowing call coming up on Hiddle as he hit Mickish hard. Loose puck held by Lane LaBelle. Delayed penalty call on Northern Michigan. And it'll be called as Steve Carpenter picks up the loose puck. And Dave Hiddle will sit down for the elbow.
The Huskies will have a two-man power play for the remainder of this first period and the first 4 seconds of the second as Dave Hiddle goes off at 19:08 for elbowing Pat Mickish of Michigan Tech Huskies. And speaking of Pat Mickish, there's a hockey playing family for you. Pat's father, Bob, played at Michigan Tech back in the 60s. His brother Scott played for Wisconsin Superior. And his brother Jeff was standout last year for the Marquette Electricians, now playing in the United States Hockey League.
Well, shades of last evening in the Copper Country as Michigan Tech with the two-man advantage. And what have we got here? A timeout to Michigan Tech. That's an early one, Dave.
You don't often see timeouts this early in the hockey game. You only get one for the game, but Bob Mancini wanting to make sure it's drawn up right with Hiddle and Ripplinger in the penalty box for the Northern Michigan University Wildcats.
Certainly not hoping for a repeat of the two-man advantage last night as Northern slammed the door on Michigan Tech, and that was another big turning point in that hockey game last evening.
Both the Wildcats and the Huskies will be on the road next week. The Wildcats will travel to St. Cloud State to take on another band of Huskies, Craig Dahl's St. Cloud State team. And Michigan Tech will also be in the state of Minnesota to take on the Bulldogs of UMD. We are hoping to be able to bring you broadcasts on a tape delayed basis next Tuesday and Wednesday of the Northern Michigan St. Cloud State Series. Still some I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed, but we're hopeful that we'll be able to bring that to you.
I'll tell you what, so far on the big ice surface this year, Northern Michigan hasn't done too well, and I know that's definitely a concern of the Wildcats. That's going to crop up, I'd say about a half an hour after the game's over this evening against Michigan Tech.
I think that's one of the reasons that Jason Hare got moved up to the forward line. They needed more speed, and on those bigger ice surfaces, speed such an important factor.
Well, here we go, a two-man power play advantage for the Huskies for the next 55 seconds. Cats rip it around the boards. Lane LaBelle holds it in here at the near side blue line. LaBelle cross ice for John Young. Young back to LaBelle. Mickish, nice pass across to Young. Back to Mickish, tries to one-time off the heel of his stick. Controlled, though, by Randy Stevens. Back onto the blue line for LaBelle. Half a minute to go in the opening period. Huskies trying to get the mismatch down low. Peterson out to Mickish down low. Right on the save off Stevens by Sardiff. Back onto the blue line for LaBelle again. He'll wind it up, fake it. Mickish across. Young shot. Oh, and I don't know if Sardiff got a piece of that or not. 10 seconds left, opening period. Huskies with more time for another good pop, and fanning on the pass was Stevens. 2 seconds left in the period. Mickish back to Young, and that'll end the first period of play as the Wildcats so far dodged the two-man advantage bullet. The Huskies, though, Dave, will still have that two-man advantage at the start of period number 2. But for the interim, Northern Michigan will take a 2-0 lead back into the locker room after 20 minutes of play.
Well, we say it's in the first period for the Huskies ran 6 for the Wildcats.
There are some things that improve with age. The longer you keep them, the better they get. That's how it is with U.S. savings bonds, and that's why they make perfect gifts. You can choose from 8 denominations and get them for half their face value. Bonds earn competitive market-based interest rates with a guaranteed minimum return. So the longer they're held, the more they're worth. Buying savings bonds is easy. Get them at any full-service bank. And be sure to ask for a savings bond gift certificate to give now. The bond will arrive in the mail a few weeks later. So take stock in America and give U.S. savings bonds.
Cool.
Because there are some things that improve with age, fortunately.
Take stock in America.
U.S. savings bonds.
Welcome back to Lakeview Arena. After one period, the Northern Michigan University Wildcats lead the Michigan Tech Huskies by a score of 2-0. Hi again, everybody. Dave Danis along with Tom McCord. And Tom, late in the period, Tech on a 2-man power play. They were able to work the puck around at will, but when it came time to get a shot on goal, they were unable to do so.
Well, as you mentioned, Dave, Michigan Tech did move the puck. They moved it last night also, and actually I thought tonight, at the start of that 2-man advantage, they had better opportunities than they did last night. You know, they just missed finishing on a couple of different points. Mickish had one go off the heel of his stick on a one-time attempt, and then a low pass down to Randy Stevens, and he just flat out missed it to the right side of Corwin Sarda. So they're getting the opportunities, and we'll see what happens at the start of the second period as the 2-man advantage continues.
The Wildcats making the most of their opportunities. They had 8 shots in the period, 2 of them getting by Jamie Ram. Greg Haddon is 5th of the season at the 3-minute mark from Heron Carpenter, and Brent Ripplinger, for the 3rd consecutive game, picks up his 4th at 4:01 from Troy Johnson and Carson Cable.
Well, 2 in the first 3 minutes, Dave. You know, it gives the young Northern Michigan team a good start in their own building, which will be critical to them all year long. And it's exactly what the Huskies did not want to do. They did not want to get behind early. They don't want to be trailing down in this building. And I know that Bob Mancini thinks that his club can play a lot better than they did early on in that first period.
The Huskies had 11 shots in the period. Corwin Sardif stopped all of them. And like we talked about before the game, sometimes when Corwin gets peppered early, he's a better goaltender.
Well, you know, out of those 11 shots, though, I don't really know how many quality shots. We'll see that later on when the stat chart comes out. But, you know, there were a lot of long-range shots that Sardif got a handle on. He really didn't have that many tough opportunities out of those 11.
No, he didn't, but he did have a couple of point-blank shots he was able to save. Meanwhile, on the other end, the shots that beat Jamie Ram were tough shots also, and Jamie probably coming up with the higher quality save in the period.
Well, Jamie had to because, you know, basically in their own zone in the first period, I don't think that the Huskies gave Ram the same protection that the Wildcats gave Sardif in the Northern Michigan zone. So that always makes a difference.
Before tonight's hockey game, Tom had the opportunity to talk to Wildcat coach Rick Conley and get his observations on the first part of the Wildcat season. Let's take a look.
My guest is Northern Michigan head hockey coach Rick Conley, and coach, the first victory of the season last night, coming maybe at a little bit of an unexpected place at Michigan Tech.
Well, I don't think there's any predictability with this team, Tom. You know, we showed a lot of promise last weekend against Minnesota, and the first 4 games at Anchorage and Wisconsin were very disappointing, and I don't think any of us knew what to expect. And we didn't start well against Michigan Tech, but we got through that early storm and played better as the game went along, and it was a good hockey game.
You know, at Wisconsin, Coach, you were down 3-0 the first night in the first 5 minutes. As you mentioned last night, trailing 1-0 at Michigan Tech, getting the goal back to tie it at 1. And then what I thought was probably the biggest goal of the evening, the work of Gans and Wu down in the Michigan Tech zone, resulting in Steve's goal.
It was really nice for Brian Gans, too. He had a tremendous training camp, and he's really had trouble getting untracked right now. And that line did work well, and it's an experienced line. And, you know, I was very worried about the combination of Storm and Young and who to play against them, and you can't just have one line. So I had 3 lines that I felt comfortable using out there against them. And if the upperclassmen will work hard and set a good example, then it'll give the young kids time to develop.
You know, one ingredient, Rick, that you're going to need this year is strong goaltending with the team that you have. You got that last night from Corwin Sarda.
Played very well, very well. Played well against Minnesota. Better on Friday than Saturday, perhaps, but played very well last night. And it looks like he's the type of goalie who needs some action. And he was especially good in the 5-on-3 power play for Michigan Tech and probably made 7 or 8 very good saves.
You know, that was a key part of the hockey game last night, the 5-on-3, for probably about 1 minute and 40 seconds in the second period. You know, I saw an interesting interview the other night with Phil Esposito and Mickey Redmond. Esposito talking about how his team needed to be in the 20% range on special teams power plays and 85% penalty killing. That's kind of the same situation you guys are in, plus you're going to have to work awful hard.
Well, I think that's hockey, too. You know, I think you've got to try to score 28, 30% and hold teams under 20. That's ideal situation. But Tech came in that game last night at the #1 power play in the league, the #1 penalty killing. I think they'd killed 35 straight penalties at home, you know, and we were able to beat them 1-0 in special teams, and you end up winning a game 4-3, and maybe that was the difference in the game.
You know, you were 1 of 5 on the power play last night. I thought that you probably moved the puck on the power play better than you have all season so far.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I think the Saturday game against Minnesota when we had 5 goals was pretty good, but as you mentioned prior to this talk, that Joe Frederick leaving, you know, could leave a big dent, but Greg Haddon came in and did a good job. Tech made an adjustment to a 1-3 in their penalty killing, and that took away some of our passing options, but our second power play group actually got the goal. So we need the power play to do well. We're not going to be real dynamic offensively, but, you know, it looks like it will be a team that will work fairly hard.
Coach, best of luck tonight against Michigan Tech. More hockey coming up after this timeout on Channel 8.
Welcome back. The Wildcats lead the Huskies by a score of 2-0 after one period. Dave Danis with Tom McCord. Glad to be bringing you Wildcat hockey live on pay-per-view. Unfortunately, Joe Frederick had some problems getting through the crowd on the crutches and may have gotten here just a little bit too late.
Well, like we said, Joe's moving a little bit slower these days, but I'm sure he's definitely looking to move it a little bit faster come January.
Maybe we can get Joe on the headset for a minute or two early in the second period. Wildcats took a 1-0 lead 3 minutes into the game on Greg Haddon's 5th goal of the season. Excellent effort by the sophomore.
Well, it was a good start for Northern Michigan, and we're going to see Jason Hare in center ice, and Hare makes the key pass on this goal. Coming up right here, there's Jason dumping the puck forward for Haddon, and Haddon just slams it by Ram to the long side, 1-0 Northern Michigan. And you know, we talked about it, it's always good to get off to a good start in your opponent's building. Last night, Northern Michigan didn't get off with a good start when Tech got the early goal. Tonight, Michigan Tech didn't get off with a good start when Northern got the first goal. The only difference there, Dave, was that Northern got the second goal last night, and tonight Northern came back and got, you know, the second goal in a row, and that's, you know, really put the damper on Michigan Tech there in the first period.
Hare and Carpenter drew the assist. We'll take a look at the second goal. Just a drive from Brent Ripplinger as he shelves it on Jamie Ram.
It was definitely a long-distance shot by Ripplinger, and a good one for the 2-0 Northern Michigan lead. Second period hockey action getting underway, and here to bring it your way on Bresnan Cable, let's welcome Dave Danis.
Thank you, Tom. The Wildcats now one man short as the first of their 2 penalties expire. Still in the box, Dave Hiddle, who went off with an elbowing call at 19:08 of the first period. The Huskies are now 0 for 3 on the power play, their 4th opportunity of the night. Play in the Northern Michigan end of the ice. Wildcats trying to clear. Greg Haddon weaving his way through center ice. Dumps it in, and we have a whistle. As the puck was bounced out of play by Haddon, who picked up a goal in the first period.
Well, that was a great idea that you had about maybe putting Joe on a headset at the start of the second period, but I think he headed for higher ground.
I think he's trying to bounce his way back over to the press box.
Bob Mancini looking for a goal in behind the Michigan Tech bench.
Simpson tried to clear. Liam Garvey got in the way of that. Garvey puts on the brakes in the corner, looking for somewhere to go with the hockey puck. 24 seconds remains in the Michigan Tech power play. Garvey back to the blue line for Jason Wright. For Garvey, he'll drive it from the top of the circle, and Corwin Sardif makes the save, and the Wildcats clear as Bill McGilvery swats the puck down the ice. 7 seconds now remain in the Husky power play as they try to mount one final rush and will be unable to do so. Figliamini, cross ice pass up ahead. Huskies now into the Wildcat end. Kyle Ferguson's shot goes wide. For the Huskies, Lane LaBelle, his shot tipped into the corner, and Dave Hiddle back onto the ice after serving his time will play it. Puck comes out to center ice now. Troy Johnson of the Wildcats across the blue line. Wildcats in a line change, drops it for Carson Cable. Cable unable to hang on. Ripplinger now for the Wildcats. Weaving in, out, and around the Michigan Tech Huskies, gets the backhander off wide. Steve Hamilton dumps it in. Johnson will collide with Jeff Hill, and we have an injury to Troy Johnson of the Wildcats. He's down in behind the Michigan Tech goal.
I think, I'm not positive on this, but if we can wind this back a little bit to the collision in behind the Michigan Tech goal, Johnson took a stick, it looked like in the upper chest area, and I'm not all that sure that it wasn't his own stick. Let's watch down in behind the cage. There's Johnson right there, or maybe it was the butt end of the Husky stick. I'm not really sure about that.
Didn't look to be anything intentional on the part of the Michigan Tech players, and something the Wildcats can ill afford. There's another injury to their forward line core. Troy Johnson down in behind the Michigan Tech goal.
Being worked on by the Northern training staff. You know, just a couple of moments before that, before Johnson went down, Dave, Brett Ripplinger with an excellent scoring opportunity as he basically, as you said, weaved his way through the Husky defenders to have the chance. And there's a look at Ripplinger on the bench as Johnson's back up, skating off with minimal assistance.
By taking a look at the bench, it looked like little errant audio. I don't believe that Pat Ford, the Wildcat assistant coach, has made it back. Pat was out recruiting, and it looks to be Doug Garrow.
Well, Pat is in the building.
No, there it is, Pat. It's sometimes hard to tell with the angle we're at, but Pat has made it into the building.
He was here just before the start of the hockey game tonight.
We're hoping to get Pat for an interview, get his observations on his first couple of months in Marquette. We'll see if we can do that in a couple of weeks when CC comes to town. For the Michigan Tech Huskies, number 8, Justin Pekka across the Wildcat blue line. His shot, skate save by Sardif. 2.5 minutes into period number 2. Huskies trying to work it inside, and they get the goal, and I think it's going to be number 3, Darren Brickich. Bouncing puck in behind Sardif. Johnny Young had a whack at it, and we will have to wait for an official scoring.
I'll tell you who else was right on the doorstep. And well, maybe not. I thought I saw a 9 down there on the ice.
Unofficially,
there was a second Tech player right in that neighborhood, and if it wasn't Brickich, it was the second, but
it will be 8 for the Michigan Tech Huskies. Justin Pekka from Brickich. And Don Osborne, who took the initial attempt from the blue line. So it's 2-1. The Huskies, Pekka, his second of the season at 2:38. Huskies trying to gain some momentum. They trail 2-1 here at Lakeview. Kirby Perot dumped it into the Wildcat corner. Puck out in the neutral zone in front of the Wildcat bench, and it's swatted back to the blue line by Michigan Tech. Shot and a save by Sardif. And what will the ruling be here? Did the puck go out of play? Yes, it did. As they'll get a new biscuit from the penalty bench.
Well, the Huskies definitely off to the good start here in the second period as they get the early goal from Justin Peckup and have another excellent opportunity right on top of that. And so Michigan Tech off to a much better start in the second 20 minutes.
On the rink for the Huskies, Pat Mickish, the center, Brent Peterson and Randy Stevens, the wings, the defensive pair, number 5, Jeff Hill, and 28, Jason Wright. McGilvery chases it into the corner for Northern Michigan. Brian Gans will pick it up. Huskies attempting to clear. Stevens up along the right side. His attempt went off the skate of Dan Rojo. And now it's just dumped into the corner by Jason Wright, the freshman defenseman from Thunder Bay, Ontario. 16 minutes to go, second period. Northern Michigan 2, Michigan Tech 1. Dave Danis along with Tom McCord, glad to be bringing you Wildcat Hockey live on Bresnan Pay-Per-View. Dan Rojo in the neutral zone for Northern Michigan, dumps it in. Bill McGilvery kind of lackadaisical, clearing the zone, but was not ruled offside. For the Huskies, Mickish sent it in. Michigan Tech will opt for a line change. And it will be the John Young trio for Michigan Tech. Troy Johnson dumps the puck in behind the net. Cable trying to control it. Ripplinger takes a swat at it, gets it back toward the corner. Now it'll be Garrett McDonald sending it toward the net. John Young for the Huskies, clears it but not out. Troy Johnson leaves it for Ripplinger, shot and a save. Ripplinger the rebound, Cable had a swat at it, and the Huskies will clear. Penalty, a cross check coming up on Michigan Tech. It'll be Kirby Perreault. Couple of good opportunities for the Wildcats, Tom, as Brent Ripplinger had a chance.
Well, Ripplinger is really handling the puck well tonight as Johnson set him up that time. And Ram came up with the big save, and Perreault cross-checked his man in front of the Husky cage. First power play opportunity for Northern Michigan here in the second period, Dave. So far, the Cats 0 for 2 as we look at Kirby Perreault across the way.
Perreault for cross-checking at 4:59 of period number 2. The Wildcat power play will consist of Johnson, Ripplinger, and Haddon, the forward line, with Hare and Carpenter anchoring the blue line. For Michigan Tech, Jason Wright is on the ice, along with Travis Seal, the centerman. Liam Garvey, number 27, also on the ice, and I believe the fourth player. Those yellow numbers sometimes a bit hard to see, is Jeff Hill, the Husky captain. Hare for Carpenter in the middle of the circle. Carpenter rips one off, and it was blocked by Hill. Cross-ice pass for Greg Haddon was wide. Haddon tries to send it down into the corner, and the Huskies are able to clear the zone. Jason Hare will take it back at center ice. Steve Carpenter dumps it down into the Husky corner. Troy Johnson gives chase. Jamie Ram gets there first. Bit of a gamble by the Husky netminder. Hare with the drive. Ram gets the blocker on it. And Liam Garvey will send the puck rink long with 1:20 remaining in the power play. Jason Hare will lead the charge for the Wildcats as the Huskies get a change. Out now for Michigan Tech, Brent Peterson and Justin Pekka, along with Pat Mickish. Ripplinger for Troy Johnson inside the Husky blue line as the Cats now opt for a change. Chance for Haddon, couldn't quite get a stick on it. Now it'll be Brent Ripplinger. Ripplinger sends it in front off the skate of Donnie Osborne, and who's down on the ice? It's Brent Ripplinger of the Wildcats.
And I think Brent also caught a stick, and I don't know if he caught a slash there or not. We'll take a look at it on the replay and see if we can catch what it was. There's Ripplinger right there, and he the loose puck. Yep, caught a slash high on the left elbow.
Didn't look to be a vicious two-hander.
Well, just a regular BC chop.
BC chop. 46 seconds remains in the power play for the Wildcats. 13:47 remaining in the period as the Wildcat training staff tending to Brent Ripplinger on the bench. The face-off is a draw. The Huskies now attempting to control. Carson Cable in digging for the Wildcats along with Kewen Shim. For the Huskies, it was Lane LaBelle, and the puck ends up in the Northern Michigan end. Jeff Simpson will play it behind the net. The Wildcats have Mike Harding all the way up. Talk about picking cherries. Cable for the Wildcats, down low for Harding. Back up high for Jeff Simpson. Simpson will move it in for Carson Cable. Mickish took a swat at it for the Huskies. Now Garrett McDonald sends it in front, and that is rejected by Donnie Osborne. Huskies return to full strength, having successfully killed the Wildcat power play. Shot was wide. Kewen Shim unable to get the stick on it for Northern Michigan, and the Huskies bring it back the other way. Brent Peterson with a shot. Corwin Sardif near flawless in the Wildcat net here midway through the second period. And as I say that, I jinxed them as the Huskies tie the game.
Jeff Hill went upstairs that time, and the Husky captain ties it up at 2-2. Time of the goal is 7:19. Let's take a look at it on the replay.
Johnny Young digging it out of the corner for Michigan Tech and getting the shot off Jeff Hill as he shelves it on Corwin Sardif.
Second goal of the season for Jeff Hill.
John Young doing the good job.
And Young the only assist at 7:19.
Collision over in front of the penalty bench involving, I believe it was Bill McGilvery of the Wildcats. Coming out with it for Michigan Tech, Jason Wright. 2-2 tie between the Wildcats and the Huskies after a 4-3 battle last night in Houghton, and the Michigan Tech Huskies have just taken the lead. It looks like it was Randy Stevens. We won't have the opportunity to see the replay as you see some excited Michigan Tech fans as the Huskies have stormed back with goals 20 seconds apart here in period number 2.
John Young is the man who's going to get that. 22, not 23, 23 I don't believe was even on the ice, but John Young gives the Huskies their first lead of the evening.
It is John Young drawing the assists for Michigan Tech. Darren Brickich and Jason Wright for Young, his third goal of the season. 3-2 now. Michigan Tech leads over the Northern Michigan Wildcats, a pair of goals just 23 seconds apart here midway through the second period. Huskies are on a roll. The Wildcats having some trouble clearing their zone. Cross-ice pass for Don McCusker tipped into the corner. McCusker being ridden to the net by Kirby Perot, and will get a stoppage in play.
Nice side headlock that time by McCusker.
And I believe Donnie is going to get a seat on the penalty bench.
And Kirby Perot is going to join him, it looks like.
Don McCusker, number 10 of the Wildcats, the freshman from Burnaby, BC. It was illustrated on the Midwest Sports Channel broadcast last week. The Wildcats with 14, I believe it was 14 players from Canada and just 4 from the state of Michigan. And most of those Canadian players coming from probably within 100 miles of Vancouver. Jamie Ram makes the stop off the low shot.
And Dave, you know, if the name McCusker sounds familiar to some of the old-time WCHA folks or followers, his dad, Bob, played for Colorado College. He was an All-American out there back in 1958.
A lot of tradition in the McCusker family for the Western Collegiate Hockey Association. Puck lifted up and out of play by number 14, Mitch Lane of the Huskies, the freshman from Mississauga, Ontario. roughing the calls going against McCusker and Perot at 8:17.
And of course, with the coincidental penalties, the way they're set up this year, both teams will continue to play 5-on-5 hockey out front of their respective goaltenders. The Huskies, Dave, have certainly turned things around from the first 20 minutes. Whatever they broke out in the locker room, they ought to save some for later in the season when they need it, because they're certainly a different hockey team than what played in the first 20 minutes.
Well, I tell you, the decision to allow the players to be replaced on a coincidental penalty being hailed by some other WCHA coaches as the Gasparini rule in honor of North Dakota's Gino Gasparini, who pushed for the institution of the 5-on-5 with the coincidentals. Carson Cable in the Michigan Tech corner, looking for somewhere to go, leaves it for Brent Ripplinger. Ripplinger shoved into the boards by Lane LaBelle. Troy Johnson now working it for the Wildcats. Johnson bumped by Donnie Osborne. Liam Garvey will attempt to play it for Michigan Tech. 10:45 to go in the period. A shot, and that went off the side of the net as the Wildcat fans came to their feet. Some thought that it was in. Pass was intercepted, and another chance for Carson Cable. Or was that Troy Johnson? Cable trying to work it for the Wildcats in the Tech end. Garrett McDonald sees the puck slide by him. Liam Garvey, oh boy, he got upended. Now it'll be Haddon into the Husky end. Shot and a save by Ram. That was Jason Hare, and a little mucking it up going on between Hare and Donnie Osborne.
Big Mike Harding also tied up with a Husky player, and that is
Jeff Hill.
Jeff Hill. This guy is definitely hurting right now. Maybe a little bit of Charlie horse, or you know, I hate to say it, but I mean, he really got dumped at Garvey at the Northern Michigan blue line. And we'll see it right here. Simpson just wiped him right out.
Oh, I tell you. You take a look as the play comes back into the Michigan Tech end and where the scrapping started. Harding and Hare will go off for the Wildcats. Hill, one of the Huskies to go off at 9:48, but Jeff Simpson, one of the better checks we've seen in our, now into our third year together.
That's why I had. You guys go with your group there. I was breaking those.
Don Osborne will be the other Huskies.
Yeah, well, I'd go singles there. They both good.
I don't want to give you this classic.
How do you see that?
Officials trying to sort things out over at the penalty bench.
Roughings on everybody. Single roughing. So we're all going to be the same. Okay? Everything will start. Okay?
So it will be single roughings to Hill and Osborne of the Michigan Tech Huskies, and Jason Hare and Mike Harding of the Northern Michigan Wildcats. And being that there is already players in the penalty bench, it will be 3-on-3 hockey as Liam Garvey still trying to get his eggs unscrambled.
All right, Garvey on the receiving end this evening, and he delivered last night a couple of real crunches on Steve Woog of Northern Michigan. 2 within about 20 seconds. And Garvey on the opposite end of the realm of spectrum this evening.
Chris Ibsen and crew of the Michigan Tech training staff assisting Leon Garvey. Ibsen at one point had been trainer with the New Jersey Devils. 3-on-3 hockey. Or check that, it is not 3-on-3. The coincidental rule does remain in effect. So it'll be 5-on-5, and the players will be released from the penalty box at the first whistle after their 2-minute penalties expire.
Well, if anything else happens, we're going to have a waiting list over there, as we're pretty well maxed out of capacity across the way.
Going to have to make a reservation to get in the penalty box.
Just like a fine restaurant.
Well, I don't know about the food over in the sin bin at Lakeview. The Pat Mickish line out for Michigan Tech with Randy Stevens and Brent Peterson for the Wildcats. Steve Woog, Brian Barker, and Brian Gans. Or check that, Bill McGilvery, not Brian Barker. Coach Comley doing some line shuffling. I think we've kind of been accustomed to that.
Well, you got about a seventh of the team in the penalty box right now, so things aren't going to quite be the same.
Jason Wright, who has an assist tonight, leading the charge for Michigan Tech. With 9:15 to go, 9:16 to go here in the second period. And I believe the penalties to McCusker and Perot will expire with that whistle. Still 2 men each in the penalty box as you have a look at the Wildcat freshman from Burnaby, BC.
Wildcats, Dave, have certainly done well as we're looking once again as Garvey gets some ice along the Michigan Tech bench. The Wildcats, Dave, have done extremely well in BC over the years.
Dan Rojo sends it in from the blue line, and Jamie Ram makes the stop and covers up immediately with Kewen Shim cruising right in front along with Brian Barker.
Shim, the freshman, 6'2", 190 pounds. Pretty big fella from Alberta, Edmonton, Alberta. Looking for his first point as a hockey Wildcat.
Kewen, a draft choice of his hometown Edmonton Oilers in the 8th round this season. As another puck dribbles into the glove of Jamie Ram.
Looks like from what I've seen of Shim so far in the series that I've observed, Dave, seems like he's got a pretty good set of wheels there.
Certainly does. Good-sized kid, originally from Seoul, South Korea, now making his home in Edmonton. Huskies moving it out, flipping it across the blue line for Michigan Tech is Darren Brickich from Kensal, BC. Wildcat got spun around just inside the blue line. Play comes out to center ice. Young tried to pick it up. Wayne LaBelle flicked the puck into the corner for Michigan Tech. Steve Hamilton for McCusker, or check that, Brian Barker, and the Huskies recovered and sent it back into the Wildcat end. Michigan Tech leading it 3-2, goals by Pekka, Hill, and Young here in the second period. Greg Haddon draws the offside call as Garrett McDonald had one too many skates over the blue line.
Cats in a situation right now, Dave, much like Michigan Tech was in the first period, doing a little bit more standing and watching than the opposite way. And the Huskies have made it pay for them with 3 straight goals here in the second period.
Pekka at 2:28, Hill at 7:19, and Young at 7:42 have given the Huskies the lead here in the second period at Lakeview Arena. Wildcats win the faceoff. The Johnson line, featuring Carson Cable and Brent Ripplinger for the Wildcats. Meanwhile, it's Travis Seal and Mitch Lane for the Huskies, and we will see who has replaced Liam Garvey along that forward line for Michigan Tech, or if in fact Garvey needed replacement. And it is number 17, Brent Peterson, moving from the Mickish line. The shot by Troy Johnson is deflected over the net. Now Troy down in the corner, tried to get it in front for Ripplinger. Deflected off a Michigan Tech skate back into the corner. Osborne bangs it off the boards. Garrett McDonald unable to keep the puck in the Michigan Tech end. Out at center ice, Jeff Hill bangs it into the Wildcat corner, and his number 5 counterpart, Garrett McDonald, plays it for Northern Michigan. Wright with the long floater into the glove of Corwin Sardip with 7:09 to go.
Well, Dave, Northern's got to get back in the mode that they were in last night and that they were in the Minnesota series. And that's if they're going to have to put the body on some people in the offensive zone to create themselves some chances. You know, gone are the times when you've got your Drakes and your Beaties that can really finesse it, do it by themselves in the opposition zone. And this year, as we're going to see as the season develops, Northern's just going to have to work their backsides off to get the opportunities.
Greg Haddon with the drive from the circle. Save was made by Jamie Ram. Jason Hare had the puck swatted away by Wright for the Huskies. Now Hare attempted to get in front for Haddon, and again Jason Wright gets in the way. Now the Huskies coming out, number 19 for Michigan Tech is Mike Figliamini with the drive. The Wildcats turn it back the other way. Hare trying to break around Wright, and it looked like Wright had a handful of Jason Hare. At least that was the opinion of the Wildcat faithful, but not that of the referee. Hamilton off the stick of McGilvery for Steve Woog. Woog trying to step around the Husky defense. Puck into the corner, McGilvery giving battle for the Wildcats with Jason Hanchuk of the Huskies. Now Brickich comes back for Michigan Tech with 6 minutes to go. And it'll be offside at the Wildcat blue line.
Well, through 34 minutes of hockey, Dave, we've seen a couple of different spectrums. We saw Michigan Tech get off with a bad start in the 2-0 deficit. And we've seen the Huskies so far in the first 14 minutes of the second period turn things around and give themselves the 3-2 advantage by basically outworking the Wildcats.
Good crowd here at Lakeview Arena. I think a few season ticket holders may have opted to head for Deer Camp instead of coming out to Lakeview. Deer season opening at dawn tomorrow.
We'll be out looking for those horns. Saw a big one last night coming back from Houghton.
As long as he didn't meet the front portion of your car.
Well, the truck was on autopilot about that time, and that thing had to be about 2 1/4. Pretty good size.
Big Bambi for you. Michigan Tech with the puck flipping it into the Wildcat end was Justin Pekka, the sophomore from Don Mills, Ontario. And I believe we're going to have a penalty. It will be an elbow. And who will it go against?
What's going on, Danny Rojo of Northern Michigan?
The Huskies on the power play 0 for 4 tonight, as Dan Rojo, the senior from Madison, Wisconsin, at 6'4", 197, one of the bigger Wildcats on the roster.
And Rojo, one of 2 lineup changes this evening from last night up in the Copper Country. Rojo replacing Chad Dameworth in the lineup. Brian Barker also an add for the Wildcats tonight. He replaced Scott Smith for Northern Michigan.
Pat Mickish will take the face-off to the left of Corwin Sardif. Troy Johnson for Northern Michigan. Mickish controls, gets it back to the blue line for Lane LaBelle. LaBelle having all kinds of trouble with Troy Johnson along the sideboards, and Carson Cable attempts to dig it out, but the puck is underneath the pile, and we will get a stoppage in play.
And Liam Garvey coming back from the Wildcat locker room where he had some work done. Looks to be skating a little bit better. Still got the ice pack, though, just above the right knee. And we'll watch to see if Liam Garvey returns to action here as the second period winds down.
3-2, Huskies over the Wildcats with 5.5 to go here in the second period. Mickish for Michigan Tech, back to the blue line for Lane LaBelle. LaBelle faked the shot, sent it back to Mickish. Mickish trying to get it in front. Amid all the skates, the puck ended up in the corner. Now it's LaBelle. Cross ice for Johnny Young. Young for LaBelle. At roughly the center of the blue line, fakes the pass, and faked the shot, and his pass skipped over the stick of Patrick Mickish. Now Mickish spins to the ice. Troy Johnson will control for Northern Michigan and send it the other way.
Nice move by Troy that time to clear the zone. Looked like he was going to go up the boards, but instead wheeled and shoveled it back through center ice.
Lane LaBelle leading the charge for Michigan Tech across center ice. Into the Wildcat end. He'll be ridden off the puck by Dave Hiddle. John Young now for Michigan Tech along the sideboards. Lane LaBelle. LaBelle finally does unleash a drive, but Corwin Sardif is equal to the task. Some extracurriculars going on. Brent Peterson taking objection to one of the Wildcats.
Well, Figliomini really paid the hefty bill from Dave Hiddle, as Figliomini, if we can get a replay on this, was right to the side of Corwin Sardif As Sardiff gloved off that puck. Figliamini right up at the top of your screen right there at the edge of the crease, and look where he is, right to the side, and Hiddle comes across and knocks him to the seat of his pants. And Dave is going to be on the seat of his pants across the way in the penalty box.
A look at Wildcat goaltender Corwin Sardiff. Dave Hiddle is escorted to the penalty box, as is Brent Peterson. And we are already running out of room on our penalty side of the ledger.
13:34, the time for these coincidental minors. If indeed they are even at 2 or 4 each, we'll have to wait and see.
It sounds like they want a slash on goaltender Corwin Sardiff. I didn't see that. Or else one of the Michigan Tech players being accused of slashing Corwin Sardiff.
What we're going to do is we're going to go number 3 white. We're going to have a cross check and a rough. Okay? We're going to do 17 black's going to have the same thing. Cross check and a rough. So everything comes out.
4 minutes each on Peterson and Hiddle. 2 for cross-checking and 2 for roughing at 15:34.
Wildcat captain Garrett McDonald, along with Husky senior John Young, discussing things with the officials across the way.
Tell you one thing that made these contests drag out last year, and it may happen again, is the referees not only having to explain the penalties to the captains, but then come over and offer up an opinion to the coaches. We'll have none of that in this instance, as the Huskies making a line change. Peterson for roughing and cross-checking, and Dave Hiddle of the Wildcats, the same 2 offenses, so they'll have to sit out most of the remainder of the period.
And as you saw on your screen a moment ago, still 50 seconds remaining on the Husky power play, as Dan Rojo sits out the remainder of his elbowing penalty.
Osborne will drive it in for Michigan Tech. Pat Mickish gives chase in the corner. Now it's Young, bothered by Jason Hare. Tries to spin away. Greg Haddon intercepts, and the Huskies forced to go back behind the net. Now Young again. Up top for Kirby Perot. Kirby sent it in front, and Greg Haddon picks it up for the Cats, and he'll dump it to the other end of the ice with 22 seconds remaining in the penalty to Dan Rojo. Michigan Tech, 23, Randy Stevens for Mickish. Mickish cruising in on the right wing, lets the shot go wide. Perot dumped it into the corner. Mickish tried to send it in front, that was blocked. Wildcats return to full strength as the Rojo penalty expires. Huskies still controlling the puck in the NMU end. Shot by Mickish goes just wide. Pat Mickish unleashes drive. Corwin Sardiff pad save, and the Wildcats clear it out from the front of the net. Rojo up across the Michigan Tech blue line, muscles his way in, gets the shot off, and Jamie Ram with the glove save.
Still 3:11 left in the second period. Wildcats with their first scoring attempt in quite a while as we look down the Cat bench. Michigan Tech with the decided advantage in play here in period number 2.
Face off to the left of the Michigan Tech goal. Troy Johnson will take the draw for NMU. Travis Seal, the center man for Michigan Tech. Right, bangs it up the boards. Garrett McDonald pinches in to get it down for Troy Johnson. Carson Cable trying to wrest the puck away from Jason Wright, and is finally successful in doing so. Jeff Hill looking for the puck, finally realizes it's behind him, turns around, swats it around behind the net. Now it'll be Ripplinger trying to go in front for Troy Johnson. Garrett McDonald in deep for the Wildcats, and I tell you, you could throw a nickel and hit 5 players. They're all bunched up at the side of the Michigan Tech goal. Penalty coming up to the Wildcats. Figliamini. The Tech goal is open as Jamie Ram has gone off the ice, and finally Brent Ripplinger will swat it and will get an interference penalty against the Wildcats.
Well, the Wildcats have certainly had their share of penalties in the second period. This one comes at 17:44 as Garrett McDonald goes to the box.
Michigan Tech 0 of 5 with the man advantage. With what coming into this weekend was the top power play in the WCHA, but so far 0 for 9 on the weekend.
Well, there's nothing like a little donut action to get your special teams average up, and the Wildcats are definitely going to have to build that average up into the high 80s if they're going to have a successful season.
Wildcats control the faceoff. Steve Carpenter sends the puck through the skates of linesman Dan Kelly. Michigan Tech now in control. John Young across the Wildcat blue line for the Huskies. Young along the sideboards for Donnie Osborne. Back to Young. Huskies looking for an opening. Young again along the sideboards. The Wildcats in that penalty killing box. Bill McGilvery has lost his stick. Pass back now to Osborne. Bill just fired into the corner where Mickish will take it. 1:36 to go, second period. Huskies leading the Wildcats 3-2. A drive from Osborne, and the referee ruling that there was a man in the crease as Corwin Sardif made the save, and the whistle is blown.
Wildcats, Dave, playing a pretty disciplined box of 4 with the short-handed situation, allowing the shot from right here to be handled by Sardif as we see Steve Hamilton clearing out Randy Stevens to the side of the goal, and Sardif covering up the rebound. That's the way you want to do it.
Osborne for Tech for John Young. Huskies very patiently working the puck with a minute to go in the power play, and 1:20 in the period, and there it may have cost them as it skipped over the stick of Kirby Perot. Pat Mickish, the freshman from Hancock. Now it'll be Randy Stevens for Tech. Back for Pat Mickish. Pass out to the blue line for Perot as we reach the last minute of play in period number 2. In front, Randy Stevens unable to get good wood on it, and the puck squirts to the corner. The Wildcats were able to clear with 30 seconds remaining in the penalty. Jeff Simpson bangs it off the boards down into the Michigan Tech corner. The Wildcats will switch up their penalty killing unit. 30 seconds now remain in the second period. Coming out for Michigan Tech, Kyle Ferguson bangs it off the boards for Patrick Mickish. Mickish, the shot, Sardif the save as Mickish was sent to the ice by Steve Carpenter. 5 seconds now remains in the Michigan Tech power play, and Rojo will return to the ice. 15 seconds now remaining in the period. Wildcats trying to gain control of the puck in the Michigan Tech end. Finally, Lane LaBelle swats it to the blue line. 5 seconds now as Cable down low for the Cats. Troy Johnson now. Johnson dumped to the ice by Jason Wright as period number 2 comes to a close.
Well, Wright will pick up the minor penalty at the 20-minute mark of the second period. And when play resumes to start period number 3, Northern Michigan, Dave, will be on their 4th power play. And the Cats need a goal to tie things up. They trail after 40 minutes by a score of 3-2.
Well, a lucky fan now will have an attempt at scoring a goal,
Dark.
as it's time to play Scoro at Lakeview Arena. Saves in the second period, 16 for Jamie Ram for a 2-period total of 22 for Corwin Sardif, 10 for a total of 21. 3 goals in the period for Michigan Tech, Pekka, Hill, and Young. The only scoring. We'll be back to wrap up the second period after we take this time out. You're watching Wildcat Hockey on Bresnan Communications Cable.
Bug sprays and pesticides, cleaning compounds, weed killers, everyday items in every home, and dangerous to your health and the health of others if not disposed of properly. The Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority can help. Call 249-4108 and learn how you can protect your family and the environment from hazardous household wastes. Learn what to do to dispose of these products safely. Do your part to keep Marquette County clean, beautiful, and healthy.
Presenting Digital Music Express. 30 channels of CD quality music. The music you want to hear when you want to hear it. DMX comes through your TV cable into your tuner and right into your stereo. And you get all 30 channels for a lot less than you ever thought you'd pay for music. If you like music, you're gonna love DMX. Digital Music Express. Just call us today.
Call 228-2900 to order DMX today.
Welcome back to Lakeview Arena. After 2 periods, the Michigan Tech Huskies lead Northern Michigan by a score of 3-2. Dave Danis along with Tom McCord. Glad you could join us on our first live pay-per-view broadcast of Northern Michigan University hockey. The Wildcats led 2-0 after 1 period, but Tom, Michigan Tech with a big comeback in the 2nd period.
Well, they got the opening goal early from Justin Pekka, and that kind of set the tone for what was to follow in the 2nd period. Let's take a look at that Pekka goal.
Just a drive from the blue line, and then the Huskies able to dig it out. And actually, there was kind of some question over who got the goal. There was a couple of players in the crease area, and Justin Pekka gets credit for his 2nd goal of the season from Osborne and Brickage at 2:38. Then it was Jeff Hill at 7:19 pulling the Huskies into a tie from John Young. Hill from Young at 7:19 made it 2-2. Do we have a look at that? Here it comes.
2nd goal in 2 nights, Dave, for Jeff Hill as he broke a 52-game scoreless streak last night. Now he's got another streak going. 2 games with a goal back-to-back.
Then 23 seconds later, Young got his 3rd from Brickage and Wright at 7:42. We're set for 3rd period action. To give you the call, here's Tom McCord.
Thank you, Dave Danis. Northern Michigan controlling the puck from the faceoff, clearing down into the Michigan Tech zone. Ripplinger with that loose disc in the near side corner. Battled for there. Cats on the power play to start period number 3. Jason Hare holds at the left point. Lane LaBelle fans on a first clearing attempt, battling there with Brent Ripplinger. Greg Haddon, Mike Harding digging away. Haddon gets the puck back to the blue line, gets away from Jason Hare back out into neutral ice. Haddon in the center ice zone, back into the Husky end. Battling with Lane LaBelle in the far side corner. Ripplinger ties up Mickish, back to the blue line. Steve Carpenter along the near side boards. Back to Hare. He'll wind it up, and that missed everything in behind the Husky goal. LaBelle picks it up and wraps it around, back out through neutral ice, back into the Wildcat zone. Exactly a minute left in the minor penalty to the Huskies. And good news for the Husky fans as Liam Garvey is back on the ice to start the 3rd period. Cats still low on the power play. Loose puck comes across the high slot area. Chopped away back into the Northern Michigan zone by Garvey. McDonald with John Young in hot pursuit. Garrett leaves it in behind the goal. And Carson Cable tries to bust his way through center ice. Simpson carries on with 24 seconds left in the Wildcat power play. Simpson along the far side boards tries to get it back towards the blue line, and that loose puck will come all the way back out into center ice. 10 seconds left in that Husky minor penalty, being served by Jason Wright. And Wright will make his way back out of the penalty box right now. Huskies at full strength. Hugh and Shim can't control the pass. Picked up, though, by Troy Johnson around the outside of Lane LaBelle, cutting for the goal, right through the crease, loose puck. And that cleared away momentarily by the Husky defense, and diving across to make a save is Kirby Perot on hands and knees. And it'll be an icing call on Michigan Tech. 17:41 left in regulation. Huskies lead 3-2.
Some nervous moments in front of Jamie Ram as the Wildcats attempting to tie it up. A couple of good whacks at it, but not enough to get it by the stellar Tech netminder. We'll take another look at it on the replay as you see Troy Johnson, and Troy moves in and just runs over Jamie Ram. And I believe it was Brent Ripplinger following up, and Ripper unable to get good lumber on it.
Face off to the right side of Ram. Seal controls for Michigan Tech. Clearing pass back out to the neutral ice. Wrapped right back in by Dan Rojo. Cleared around by Jeff Hill. Held at the blue line by Rojo. McGilvery still tied up by Hill. Woog comes across, puts his 2 cents worth in on Seal. Seal, though, with the loose puck, comes back out into center ice. Flipped down into the northern Michigan zone. And Steve Hamilton with a clearing pass to Brian Gans. Gans has passed way too far down into the Tech zone. That'll be on goal, negating the icing. Huskies clear up the far side boards, and managing to get it back out into center ice was Mitch Lane. Jason Hare tries to step around a defender at the blue line, not successful. Rojo, though, clears it back just inside the Michigan Tech blue line. Cleared into the northern zone by Jason Wright, battled for right in front of our broadcast location. And Rojo with a center ice pass, that eludes Jason Hare. Play a little scrambly here early in the third period. Rojo knocks the puck away in neutral ice. Mike Harding picks it up and clears it deep into the MTU zone. Lane LaBelle right out in front of his own goal. The Huskies bring the puck back out into center ice. Dave Hiddle will clear it right back in. LaBelle once again with Mike Harding right behind. Up the boards for Brickich. Play battled forward deep in the Michigan Tech zone, near side corner. Johnson doing some bumping and grinding, but Lane LaBelle comes away with the loose puck for Michigan Tech. Lead pass for Brickich in center ice. Brickich bumped off the play by his number counterpart Dave Hiddle. Pair of number 3s. And Kirby Perot will try his luck. Perot just flips it down into the northern Michigan zone, and Dave Hiddle has to go back. Huskies opting for a line change here, and the play comes back through center ice. Giving Jason Hanchuk across. Center ice for Mickish. Mickish lined up and bumped off the play by Steve Carpenter. Loose puck, Barker can't control it. Right on, and the save by Corwin Sarduff, as having the opportunity that time was Brent Peterson. Referee in the way across the ice. Mickish being hooked from behind, hauled down. Northern Michigan lucky to get away with that one there. Hugh and Shim back into the Tech zone. Shim around the outside of Perot, in on goal, and the save made by Jamie Ram as a good burst of speed that time. Put Hugh and Shim in a scoring position. Barker on his knees, and a hand pass ruled, and the faceoff will come out of the Michigan Tech zone with 14:45 left in regulation.
Strong move by the freshman from Edmonton, Alberta, number 15, Kewan Shim of the Northern Michigan University Wildcats, to create a scoring opportunity. 3-2, the Huskies lead at 14:45 to go here in the third.
Face-off just outside the Michigan Tech blue line. Travis Seal centering Liam Garvey and Mitch Lane for Bob Mancini's crew. Face-off, though, won by Steve Wu, cleared right back into the Tech zone. In behind his own goal, bumped off the puck is Jason Wright, reverses the near side corner. Liam Garvey comes away. Garvey gives it up in the neutral zone, and Jeff Simpson will start it back. Clearing back into the Michigan Tech zone. Ram out of the goal to clear it away from Steve Woog. Simpson holds at the blue line, right back in behind the Husky cage. Brian Gans can't control it. Loose puck comes back out into center ice where Garrett McDonald picks it up and gives it to Simpson. Nearing the 6-minute mark of the third period, Huskies holding the 1-goal edge at 3-2. 3 unanswered goals in the second period for the Huskies. Nice poke check by Lane LaBelle in center ice. He gives it right back up, though, to Greg Haddon. Haddon back in over the line. Brickage stepped into him, steps into him a second time, and the Huskies just lob it lazily back out into center ice. Danny Rojo back into the Tech zone. LaBelle lined up by Haddon, missed the brunt of that check by the Wildcat sophomore. And Rojo has to chase it back in his own zone. Reversing for Hamilton, back up the far side board. Harding tips it back to the blue line. Held in, but now Hamilton brings it forward to clear the zone. Loose puck in center ice. Don Osborne just flips it back deep into the Wildcat zone. Brickage lines up and levels Rojo, held at the blue line in behind the Cat cage once again. Rojo for Ripplinger, held in at the blue line. Osborne a shot, that knocked down in front by John Young. Young back to Osborne. Well, check that, that's Handchuck number 20, not 21 Osborne. Loose puck in center ice. Handchuck paired with Kirby Perreault on the Tech blue line, and this will be number 20 Handchuck in behind his own goal. Handchuck takes a look, brings it across ice for Brickage. Brickage lined up by Hiddle. Steve Carpenter deep in his own zone. Lead pass for Ripplinger, center ice for Troy Johnson, 2-on-2. Johnson along with Carson Cable. Good defensive play by the Huskies to bust it back out of their own zone, and Dave Hiddle chops it up over the glass and amongst the spectators. 12-19 left in regulation.
I tell you, out on the ice just a couple of moments ago for the Wildcats, number 44, Dan Rojo, who's now on the NMU bench, wearing his third different number in as many seasons, probably in an effort to confuse the play-by-play announcers. 44 this season. Last season, Danny wore number 12. The year before, he was number 2.
Well, it's got to be a record of some kind, Dave, but you know, no matter what number Danny Rojo wears, he does stand out in a crowd. He's a pretty good-sized dude. That good finish name, too.
6'4", 197-pounder from Madison, Wisconsin.
Just I think that'd be finish anyway.
That would be my guess.
Be my first alternative. Huskies holding at the blue line, a long shot, and getting a pad on that was Corwin Sardoff, as having the opportunity was Jason Wright. Play whistled down in neutral ice, and we'll face it off.
Well, I tell you, Tom, this period has had a bit more flow to it than the second period. 13 penalties whistled in the middle stanza. 7 against the Huskies, 6 against the Wildcats. And so far here in the third, all we've had was Wright serving out the penalty that was called at the end of the second period.
Oh, right from the face-off, it's cleared back up into the crowd once again. I think probably both coaches telling the guys to cool it a bit and stay out of the box in the third period so you can get some rotation going on the lines. I tell you, it's tough to get consistent playing with the same people if a trio is always in the box.
That's for certain.
Play loose deep in the northern Michigan zone. Number 44, Dan Rojo, off to Brian Gans. Lead pass for breaking McGilvery in center ice off his stick. Loose puck picked up by Steve Hamilton. Hamilton snaps it, and that went wide of the cage. Hamilton along the near side boards. Pushes it back in behind for McGilvery. That play, though, intercepted by the Huskies, and Lane LaBelle starts to play out. Long shot from Figliamini through center ice. Figliamini, just a little guy, but got some speed there. Figliamini last night getting his first collegiate point for Michigan Tech up in the Copper Country. Puck lazily rolling back into the Michigan Tech zone. Cleared across ice by Jeff Hill. Wildcats, Sardoff, clear it up the far side boards. Hamilton just throws it back to neutral ice. Nearing the midway point of the third period, Tom McCord along with Dave Dennis. You're enjoying Wildcat Husky hockey on Bresnan Cable. Jason Hare has to hustle back, fails to hold it at the blue line. Dave Hiddle has it poked away, trips up Brickage, and we've got a penalty call coming on Northern Michigan. Huskies have pulled Ram for the extra attacker, and as Harding gets the puck, Hiddle will head to the penalty box.
First penalty of the third period. It'll be the 7th power play opportunity for the Michigan Tech Huskies. They are 0 for 6 tonight. Let's take another look at it as Darren Brickich gets upended right there as Hiddle gets the stick in front of Brickich, and Brickich ends up face down on the blue line.
Well, if Hiddle doesn't put the stick on it, Dave, Brickich is right in. So if there is such a thing as a good penalty, we just had one right there, if there is such a thing as a good penalty.
9:37, the time of the call against Dave Hiddle. The 12th penalty whistled against Northern Michigan tonight.
Wildcat penalty killers, Troy Johnson along with Carson Cable, Garrett McDonald, and Jeff Simpson. Husky power play features Mickish, Peterson, and John Young up front. Kirby Perot and Don Osborne on the blue line. This is Osborne winding up. Drive, and Sardiff makes the save. Loose puck and nose, shoveling it just wide of the goal was John Young, looking for goal number 2 on the evening. Huskies deep in the Northern Michigan zone, intercepted by Garrett McDonald, cleared back to the blue line, held there by Osborne, right back in behind the Northern cage. Simpson tries to reverse it the opposite direction, held by Peterson at the blue line. McDonald puts the lumber on Mickish. Cable steps into Mickish. Mickish still mucking for the puck along right in front of our broadcast location. Loose puck finally picked up by Cable and cleared back to the Husky line. Lead pass for Young back into the Northern Michigan zone. Young, a drop pass for Mickish. Mickish on the backhand. Kirby Perot. Perot eyes it up with 1:10 left in the Husky power play. John Young in the far side circle. Throws it back towards the blue line. Osborne pushes it for Perot in behind the Cat cage. Young reverses back near side corner to Mickish. Carpenter gets the lumber on Mickish. Huskies still control the puck. John Young looking for Perot. Loose puck controlled by John Young just inside the NMU blue line. Mickish across for Young. 40 seconds left in the Husky power play. Osborne fails to tee it up. Osborne again blasts it, and that got knocked down and went off 2 bodies, including that of Simpson, and Simpson's going to head to the Wildcat bench as the Cats clear the puck back into the Husky zone. Wildcat senior Jeff Simpson felt that one, to say the least. And play whistle down in the Husky zone. And an intentional offside on Northern Michigan.
Simpson obviously in a lot of pain down on the Wildcat bench. They used to score 3-2 Michigan Tech. But Simpson, as he came to the bench, stumbled and almost went down as he attempted to enter. And there's some good camera work, getting a shot of Jeff Simpson trying to shake off the apparent injury. We'll take another look at it on the replay. And there you see the drive. And Simpson blocking it in front of the Wildcat net, and that is where the injury occurred. But he looks on the bench like he's shaking it off, and hopefully he'll be able to return before too long.
Well, for those of you who have never played the game of hockey, the puck is round, vulcanized rubber, and frozen, so it does kind of sting when it hits you in front of the goal, especially when it's wound up from about 60 feet.
Just a bit.
Garrett McDonald, 5 seconds left in the tripping minor to Dave Hiddle. And Haddon spins his man around in center ice, comes away with a puck. Haddon going to cruise right in, scores!
Second goal tonight for Greg Haddon, and boy, oh boy, did he play that one sweet.
Tell you what, Dave, when we look at this replay, if we get it soon enough, right there, Haddon put the grab on the Huskies. Kind of lucky for Northern Michigan that play wasn't whistled, but Haddon continued on with the 2-on-1 and made no mistake for goal number 2 and a 3-3 tie in the third period.
Haddon taking the short side off the glove of the Michigan Tech goaltender, and I tell you, he had a man that he used as a decoy and just went inside. As soon as he got Jamie Ram to give him a little bit of room on the glove side, he took the shot and put her in. Tie game with 8:20 to go.
Well, we'll see how the Huskies react to Northern Michigan tying up the hockey game. Certainly picked up the crowd enthusiasm, if nothing else, here at Lakeview Arena this evening. Brent Peterson deep in his own zone for Michigan Tech, off the Mickish. Mickish right in front of his own goal. Gets it forward, intercepted in neutral ice by Carpenter. And with the loose puck is Jeff Hill. Hill, a lead pass up the right side. In over the line with a centering attempt that time was Mitch Lane, intercepted and cleared by Northern Michigan. Huskies shovel it forward. Peterson just dumps it in, intercepted by Garrett McDonald, and the Wildcat senior will carry it through center ice. McDonald turned around. Wildcat fans wanted a call across the way. Aren't going to get it. Play continues on. Michigan Tech controls. Loose puck. Oh, saved by Sardif. Score on the rebound as Lane LaBelle puts it home.
For Lane LaBelle, his 4th goal of the season, and just as quickly as the Wildcats had tied it up, the Huskies coming back to get the go-ahead goal with 7:26 to go. Here it is, Lane LaBelle plucking the rebound from out in front of Corwin Sardif and putting it over the sprawled Wildcat netminder.
Sardif made that first save, but LaBelle was just allowed to come right down the pipe.
Just 44 seconds had elapsed since the Wildcats had tied it up on Haddon's goal. Lane LaBelle is 4th of the season to put the Huskies back in front.
Oh, with my previous question answered, the Huskies clear it back into the Northern Michigan zone. Centering attempt by Michigan Tech, intercepted by Garrett McDonald. Long lead pass up for Troy Johnson. That play ruled to be offside at the Michigan Tech blue line. And Dave, I tell you, a big goal for Michigan Tech coming off that Haddon score.
Well, I tell you, on Haddon's, the assist went to Garrett McDonald. And then 44 seconds later, LaBelle and Mitch Lane and Pat Mickish drawing the assists for Mickish. His 15th point of the season.
And that also continues the scoring streak for the Husky freshman. And for Mickish, he has a point now, at least 1 point in all 8 Husky hockey games. Hog tied to the ice in the Wildcat zone was Dave Hiddle. Delayed penalty call coming up on Michigan Tech. Cats looking to pull Corwin Sardif, but the Huskies gain control. And it looks like Brickich, I believe, will head into the penalty box for the Huskies.
Northern Michigan 0 for 4 tonight on the power play. This will be their 5th opportunity as Brickich goes off. We'll take another look at it. I'm not certain whether it'll be holding. I think that's going to be the call. 2 minutes for wrestling at 13:19.
Well, the Wildcat power play will line up this way. Johnson, check that. Troy's going to head over to the Wildcat bench now. Ripplinger, Haddon, and Mike Harding up front with Jason Hare and Carpenter on the blue line. Huskies counter with Mickish and Peterson up front. On the blue line for MTU, Jeff Hill, along with Jason Wright. Northern Michigan will try once again to even up the hockey game as Greg Haddon comes down the left side. Haddon across to Carpenter, winds it up, and oh, the glove save by Ram. Rebound is loose and whistled down as the puck was ruled to be hit with a high Wildcat stick.
Good scoring opportunity for Steve Carpenter, and Jamie Ram able to get the glove on it. And as Ram was able to bat it up into the air, we'll see a Wildcat come in and knock him back down with a high stick. Here Haddon comes across the blue line and finds Carpenter, and Steve's got all day to shoot. And I believe it was Brent Ripplinger hitting the puck with the high stick. The faceoff will come all the way back to the Wildcat end of the rink.
Well, Wildcats will stay with the same power play lineup. The Huskies will stay with the same penalty killing lineup. Peterson will take the face-off along with Greg Haddon, he who has 2 goals in the hockey game. Jason Hare for Haddon in his own zone. Lead pass for Carpenter, center ice. Up to Ripplinger. Brent back on the blue line. Jason Hare rips one high over top of the cage. Haddon for Ripplinger. Back onto the blue line. Oh, it hopped over the stick of Jason Hare, and he'll have to give chase all the way back into the Wildcat zone. Sardif, though, with a long lead pass for Haddon back into the zone. Drives a high shot. That missed everything. Harding bumps his man along the near side boards. That's Travis Seal, but the Huskies gain control and clear back into neutral ice. A minute left in Brickich's minor penalty for Michigan Tech. Huskies with Lane LaBelle clear it all the way back into the northern Michigan zone. LaBelle back on the defense right now with Kirby Perot for MTU. Puck intercepted, a shot ripped from the blue line by Travis Seal, handled easily by Sardin. Hare will make that. Cable, winds it up in his own zone. Number 17, the freshman Cable, up to Q and Shim. We'll make that McDonald, number 5, not 15. There's Shim in behind the goal. We'll get him in there. Cable now in the near side corner. Back to Simpson. Cable, top of the circle. McDonald snaps one towards the goal. That got deflected and went wide of the cage. Shim on his knees, gets it loose to Johnson. Johnson in behind the Husky goal, off to Cable. Cable in the circle. Carson Cable eyes it up. Takes the return pass from Simpson. Down low, centering pass out front, and it bounced wide. Michigan Tech now back at full strength as Brickich is back on the ice. Johnson battling for control. Johnson in behind the cage, makes a little move. Busting down to try and pick it up was McDonald, but the Huskies clear the zone. Brickich in a race for it with Simpson. Simpson will chip it away, but takes the ride into the glass from Brickich. Brickich, a nice move with the skate to kick the puck away. Mickish can't control it. Plays still loose in the northern Michigan zone. Now Mickish comes away. Mickish with Gans right on him. Pulled down. Gans going to the penalty box. Delayed penalty call on northern Michigan for the hold. And with only 4:07 left in regulation, the Huskies go back on the power play with a 1-goal lead.
Costly penalty for the Northern Michigan Wildcats, the 13th infraction by NMU tonight as Brian Gans goes off for holding at 15:53. You'll see it right here as Gans going down, grabbed onto Pat Mickish and dragged him to the ice with him.
Well, Gans had more than a handful that time. And Northern Michigan will be trying to kill off a Husky power play. And at the same time, plot to try and even things off here in the late going of this evening's contest. Michigan Tech with Young, Peterson, and Mickish up front. Don Osborne and Jason Wright, the point man. McGilvery, Hiddle, Woog, and Steve Carpenter, the Wildcat penalty killers. Carpenter wraps it around the far side. Knocked out for the blue line by Woog, held into the zone. Loose puck to Mickish. Back onto the blue line, Osborne. Huskies control it. Mickish out at the top. Down for John Young. Away from the Husky senior, cleared up the glass and over the glass into the crowd. Face-off will stay in the northern Michigan zone.
Well, the Wildcats will have to kill this penalty, and soon after they do, they'll have to begin thinking about taking Corwin Sardiff out of the net to get an extra attacker on the rink. This is a situation where the loss of Joe Frederick becomes even more apparent. Frederick last year had 7 shorthanded goals in the last 11 games of the season to lead the country.
And of course, Northern Michigan, such a good shorthanded team a year ago. So far this year, it's just the opposite. The Cats have given up 4 shorthanded goals while they've been on the power play. Simpson picks it up and rips it into the Wildcat bench area. And Brent Ripplinger, I don't know if he saw it coming, but he took a shot right around the helmet. He's got that helmet off in a hurry as the trainers go to work. I don't think he saw that one coming, Dave.
I don't think he did either. That just came right into the bench area, and you're so vulnerable when you're in that area because the puck can just come from just about any angle to the bench, and you may be talking with another player or a coach and not see it, or just catch it at the last second. You can take a dinger right in the face.
Loose puck from the face-off, back to the blue line. Osborne holds it, takes the return pass from Mickish. John Young across to Osborne. Jason Wright snaps one towards the goal, knocked down by Garrett McDonald. He'll skate it out of his own zone. McDonald for Johnson. Cross ice for Carson Cable. Cable just throws it down deep in behind the Husky goal, and MTU will start out of their own zone. Peterson through center ice. Mickish stood up at the blue line, cleared back out by Dave Hiddle. Loose puck at the red line. Swing and a miss by Carpenter, and Hiddle picks it up. Clears back into the Husky zone with 50 seconds left in the Gans minor, 2:55 left in regulation. Huskies lead by a goal at 4-3. Skating it out of his own zone, turning it back now is Wright. Center ice pass. Huskies playing a little catch in the neutral zone. Travis Seal clears it. Brickich tries to bust in. Centering pass. Oh, Sarduff made a big save there, as having the goal-scoring opportunity for the Huskies was Justin Pekka, looking for his second of the hockey game.
Our director and producer for tonight's Wildcat Hockey Contest has been Gavin LeMade. Executive producer Rex Butenbach. Audio and replay Lance Carter. And on camera, Mike Bass, Johnny Grove, Jerry Balicki, and Diana Knoll. Excellent job, Dick Strauss. On graphics and technical support from Jim Grove, Gene Hennick, Phil Poyer, and Tim Pepin. Thank you all for being here. Special thanks also going out to the NMU Athletic Department and the Sports Information Department for providing us with statistics, and also the City of Marquette. Also getting our gratitude. Brent Ripplinger being taken off the ice. He was hit by the puck just a few moments ago on the NMU bench, and being assisted by Mike Harding. Also like to say hi to our viewers in the Houghton Hancock area and down in Escanaba. Glad you could be with us tonight. Steve Carpenter also on the Wildcat bench, experiencing some difficulties.
Lane LaBelle clears it. Huskies still on the power play for 15 seconds. And down on top of the puck across the way is Justin Pekka. And the faceoff, I believe, is coming outside the Wildcat blue line.
Minnesota and Wisconsin tied at 2-2. That game in the second period. I tell you, if that goes to overtime, that'd be the fourth time in a row for the Gophers to go to OT. Twice here last week, and last night they tied the Wisconsin Badgers. That game tonight being played at the Met Center, the North Stars home rink. And last season when they did that, they had the biggest regular season crowd in college hockey history.
Jason Hare and Pat Mickish. Mickish controls the faceoff. Still 10 seconds left in the power play for Michigan Tech. 2:13 now left in regulation. Huskies with the 1-goal lead. And as the Cats clear the puck in behind the goal, Northern Michigan comes back to full strength as Gans heads for the bench. Clearing pass into center ice. That's picked off by Simpson. Jason Hare tries to dump it forward, finally picks it up and rips it into the Husky zone. And dropping down on top is Jamie Ram, and he'll hang on with 1:54 left in regulation. And Dave will have to keep an eye on Corwin Sarduff in the late going of this one.
Well, we certainly will. Probably a little bit too early to pull the netminder, but once you get inside about a minute 20 or so, you can be watching just about any time that Northern Michigan gets the puck deep in Tech territory, that chances are that Mr. Sarduff will head for the bench.
Face off when it happens will be off to the right side of Jamie Ram. Ram has played pretty well tonight after giving up the early 2 goals to Northern Michigan in the first 3 minutes. Cats with McDonald in behind the goal. A centering pass loose in the crease, and the big pads are closed. And the Cats are momentarily turned away by Jamie Ram.
Hey, Garrett McDonald had his stick in the air. He thought that puck had gone in. But the Wildcats will take another look at it as the Wildcats attempt to put it by the Michigan Tech goal there from the faceoff. See the Cats coming around the net. Greg Haddon out in front, and Mike Harding working the puck for NMU. Faceoff will now be to the opposite side on Ram's left.
John Young to take the face-off against Greg Haddon. Puck not dropped fairly. We'll try it one more time.
Haddon, Hare, and Harding, the combination for the Wildcats. Greg Haddon, number 11, the pesky center of NMU. He's one of the smaller guys in the league. He always seems to get something going with the biggest guy on the other team.
And Haddon just misses from the faceoff as he shot that puck wide of Ram in the Michigan Tech goal. 1:35 left in regulation. Young and Harding battling in behind the goal line. Loose puck, Jason Wright also there, but the main people battling down there are Harding and Young. Harding still trying to control that puck. A minute 18 left in regulation. The scrum continues in behind the Husky goal as we're at a virtual standstill. Centering attempt made by Harding, intercepted by Jeff Hill. Puck cleared up the boards, and Hill will kick it back out into center ice. Hustling back, delayed offside on Michigan Tech. The Huskies clear the zone, under a minute to go in a hockey game. You can look for Corwin Sarduff any time now as the puck goes into the Husky zone. Here comes Sarduff now. Cats have the extra attacker on the ice. Puck wheeled around the near side boards, held in momentarily by Rojo. Huskies, though, clear the zone. If it goes far enough, it'll be an icing call. That icing waved off as Simpson had to play it. 35 seconds left in regulation. Puck intercepted, loose puck. And shooting it wide with Pekka. He gets it again and hits the goal post. Still 25 seconds to go. Huskies missed an opportunity to wrap up the hockey game. Long shot, and Rams ducked on that one. Loose puck in the Michigan Tech zone. Haddon battling with Kirby Pearl. Centering pass out front. Hare couldn't control it. Still loose in the slot. And this time Mickish gets it. And Mickish flips it towards the open goal. 5 seconds to play, and the Huskies will even things up. Penalty call coming. And that should be on Michigan Tech, I believe. But that's history as the Huskies bounce back from a 4-3 defeat on Friday to defeat Northern Michigan 4-3 here at Lakeview Arena on Saturday night.
Wildcats unable to capitalize with the extra attacker. In fact, Michigan Tech having a couple of scoring opportunities at the open Wildcat goal and unable to put it in. But they didn't need to, as they got the 4-3 victory, courtesy of Lane LaBelle's goal just a minute, or just 44 seconds after Greg Haddon had tied the score for the Northern Michigan University Wildcats. Those the only 2 goals of tonight's third period. The Wildcats led 2-0 after 1. It was 3-2 Huskies after 2. The teams trade goals in the third. Tom and I will be back to wrap things up when Wildcat hockey continues on Bresnan Cable.